So like if we take a look at the past, maybe, I don't know, 5, 10 years or so, and like a 5-year-old asks me, AI, I read all my parents read these articles about AI. How's my life changing because of AI? I'm not
Yeah.
really sure I could point to much. Um, I can point to a lot of small incremental improvements, but I can't point to anything
Well,
like a
Siri and all the, I mean, those sorts of things are, I mean, I don't know if it's changed their lives, but certainly it's, it's widespread and widely used, I guess.
right. So my
But,
question to you
you know,
to you would be, in the next 5 years, it's now 2025. Do you think my day-to-day life is like significantly different? And if so, how?
yeah, I think so. And I'd love your view on this. I think that with AI, so I don't do AI anymore professionally, but it's not because I'm not extremely bullish on it. In fact, I think blockchain slash crypto and AI are by far the two most important things going on right now. I just happen to think AI is, for a variety of reasons, probably a lot of the benefits are going to accrue to incumbents, not startups. That's not to say there aren't tons of startup opportunities, but anyway, I can talk about that more later. But I think we are. You tell me, but like the stuff I see like coming out of labs and things, it feels like there's a dam that's going to break, right? That we've only seen the beginning, and um, one. My understanding is the quality of the results. So like GPT-3 and this kind of thing, right? Like it's just like the size of the models and things. That's not slowing. That's growing very quickly, and it's not slowing down. So like there's sort of a Moore's law type thing going on here, which is how big is your neural network? How much data can you put in there? And that seems to be going up at a very rapid rate. And as far as I know, maybe you'd have better insight into it, not slowing down at all. Number one. Number two, so the core kind of quality of the AI is getting better, right? Number two, very importantly, it's being packaged in a way that's accessible to developers. So this is everything from cloud, kind of compute training services to TensorFlow, to all of these really nice software packages, to I think basically every client-side computer now has specialized chips for running models and deployment. And so that's very important, right? Because what you need it to get to the point where it's like AWS or something like this, or just like a database where every piece of software, including an accounting software where they don't have a big team of machine learning people, is able to use the latest stuff, right? So you tell me, but I think that it's just like a matter of getting this stuff out to market, a matter of the models increasingly getting better. I think another really interesting trend, right, is so much of the last decade was on images, AI, ImageNet, identifying what's in an image. Second half of the decade, really cool stuff with generative images, creating images. Now, a lot of the action's moving to text, which just, unlocks a whole wide range of new applications. So I think it's very likely that I guess a couple things. Like if you go back to the history of AI, it was just sort of fits and spurts, right? There were all these kind of AI summers and winters. I think we're now in the real thing. Like there's no more winters because of the things I was mentioning before in terms of the quality of the models and things like this, but also the economics behind it. Like there's now a business model for AI, right? Search and ads and there's all these other reasons why all this money will keep flowing in. Whereas in the past, they were dependent on government grants and kind of the whims of, of those various funding sources. So, I think it's still early. Like, I mean, this all like, so you mentioned, like, I got really intrigued by machine learning, I guess back in 2007 or 8. We sold our company to eBay, machine learning company, in 2011. I thought we were at the end. It's so ridiculous in retrospect. I thought we were late to the game and we better sell before the AI. I think, of course, it really began in the modern era, I think in 2013, with the probably the Google cat video kind of experiment that came out. I think was sort of considered the kind of watershed moment when at least the epiphany happened. People realized, I mean, the underlying models, and people have been working on that for obviously decades, but that was when people were like, oh wow. And then if you look at like the ImageNet results and all the other kind of metrics, like it just got dramatically better. So we're, that's the other thing. We're 7 years into it. Like it takes a while to get these things built out, productized, deployed throughout the world. But I think it's going to happen. I think it's a major important area in the next couple of years.
Like, 5 years from now, I'm walking around the earth. Do you have a sense for like what's going to be changed and
I
different?
think like the self-driving cars, like we don't know exactly how far away they are, but they're going to happen. I mean, it could be. It's one of these things that's so hard to predict. It could be, Waymo's. My understanding is they're running in Phoenix and things, with a safety driver and things. So still limitations, and there's problems around like different lighting conditions and weather, and it's not perfect yet. But it's just a matter of time. I mean, matter of time. 3 years to 10 years or something, probably. It could be 10 years before they kind of get all the kinks out, or maybe even longer, given that it requires cultural changes, right? It requires a mindset shift to be willing to go into a car that no one's in. It requires a new system for insurance and regulatory and a whole bunch of things. So maybe it takes longer, but that's going to happen, right? It's going to be, you're going to have autonomous drones, you're going to have autonomous cars, it's going to change transportation. It's probably going to change manufacturing, agriculture, like any place you use kind of vehicles and big heavy moving machinery. That may take longer, I don't know, but anything where there's sort of physical interaction with the world will probably be mediated through some form of AI over the next coming decades. Information work, which is what most of us do now. You sit in front of a computer and you do stuff. Having a cyber sidekick there, fixing your spell check and your grammar, and the next thing is suggesting how to finish that essay. What's the best final paragraph of the blog post? I think maybe for a while it'll be kind of this quote centaur model, which is they called that centaurs when it was the chess players. I think for a while there was a period in which the best chess player in the world was a human plus a computer. I think the computer alone now is the best, but I think you'll probably have an intermediate period where these people are sort of assisted by AI in a whole variety of tasks, and eventually probably the AI takes over more and more of that.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be, but I don't think it's like, I think one thing that's important is like the robots don't come looking like robots. Like it's not, if anyone here, the people watching are probably too young, but there was an old TV show called The Jetsons. It was like a cartoon where, it's like the future, and what happened in the way that AI was delivered was there was literally like a butler who would go and like, be a robot butler who embodied the AI, and that was sort of, and they would go take the jobs. But in reality, that's not what happens. Like you don't literally take like
Yeah.
the accountant and replace it with a robot accountant that looks like an
Animatronic.
android. What you do is you just have really good software that is AI assisted, that suddenly instead of having 10 people in your accounting department, you only need 2 people, right? That's how robots actually take over the world, is like very subtly through kind of boring seeming enterprise software.
Yes.
So anyways.
Although I do think in the Japanese version of the future, it is an animatronic robot. I just
Well, those Honda animatronic, or what's that? Boston Robotics. Those scary.
very interesting that thing was just bought by Hyundai again.
Was it? I didn't even follow it. That's
Yeah,
yeah.
it seems to be the tumbling pin of Silicon Valley from one company to the other. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. We're talking now a lot, I guess, about digital innovation. One interesting dichotomy I've been noticing is you kind of course, see a lot of the American AI laboratories, notably OpenAI and Google to some extent too, working on like the software stuff. And of course, the holy grail here that everyone's secretly excited about is code that can write code. Self-programming AI is kind of the penultimate goal. But what's interesting is if you look at the UK labs, it's quite different. DeepMind in particular is going very much after the material science world. And I was kind of curious if you had any views on, how like, synthetic biology or how like the physical world might change as a result of AI as opposed to just the software world.
Yeah, so I'm getting pretty far out of my area, but I will say, like, I have a colleague, Vijay Pandey, who founded our bio fund. So we have a bio fund at Andreessen Horowitz, and the thesis behind our bio fund is, why, like, our firm is very much oriented around software, right? And traditionally, there was sort of a separation between software venture firms and bio investing, right? So they would do kind of molecule development and things like this, and we would do software. Our belief is that the two are kind of converging or intersecting much more, which is why we felt like we had the competency to sort of go and enter biology. And specifically, what Vijay would say is that because of software, machine learning, et cetera, we're now able to engineer biology instead of kind of going and doing, trial and error, and sort of a much more, if you think about how, for example, drugs are discovered, it was in the past a much more kind of physical trial and error process. And today you can actually go and, using software, do much more kind of engineering in a much more predictable way. So I think that again, I'm getting, way outside of my kind of, I'm not a, I'm a only a hobbyist at best with respect to biology. But my understanding is that that's like a major area. And material, you mentioned material sciences, that's another important area. We have a interesting company, that uses artificial intelligence to search for mineral deposits, as an example. Like, you're just going to see, I think, all sorts of interesting applications like that. I think probably the gating factor right now is just expertise. It's just, you don't have that many people yet. You will soon, who are deep into this stuff and can go and work on all these different problems. That solves itself partly through the market, right? More, it's now the most popular class at Stanford undergrad is the machine learning class, and it solves itself partly through tools.